Hey everybody, welcome back to the Allstate Soccer Show on our main stage. I'm Charlie O'Connor-Clark from CampPL.ca, and you're joining us for our next panel here. Now, if you were here just a half hour ago, we just heard from the head coaches of Forge FC and York United in the Canadian Premier League. But now we're going to hear from a couple players who played against each other in that 905 derby yesterday. So if we're gonna try and all be friends here today, even though they were rivals yesterday. But anyway, so let's bring him in now. We've got from Forge FC fullback Kwame Awuah, and we've got Jordan Wilson from York United, a midfielder and defender in his first year with the club. So hey guys, how you doing?
Doing well,
right, Charlie.
Good. So before we really jump into talking about player development and things like that, I think maybe just for people who aren't familiar with you guys and your stories, we'll talk a little bit just about your paths. Maybe we'll start with Kwame. You are a Toronto native, I believe. Actual Toronto or
actual Toronto.
Actual Toronto. All right. So you've been you had spent time in that Sigma FC Academy with Bobby. You played college in the States with the University of Connecticut. Drafted in the first round of the MLS Super Draft by New York City FC, and you played for a little bit there. But maybe do you want to walk us through a little bit of your own background and how you ended up in the CPL with Forge?
Yeah, I mean, you basically explained my path. I mean, if we're considering club soccer, I mean, I grew up playing in the Jerfu Toronto Spanish League. And that's where most of the people that I play with now picked up their trait. Like guys like Richie Larea, guys like friggin' guys that are playing on the futsal national team right now. And it's just something when we were growing up, that was the easiest thing to play. It was cost effective. It was good. It was enjoyable. And then from there I went to the regional. I did the whole regional provincial thing, and then I went to Sigma after that. So from Sigma, played the academy with guys like Richie Larea, Christian Samaniego, Chris Nanko, Kyle Laren, just to name a few. Our team was really good, the 95 age group, and then got a scholarship to University of Connecticut, where I was able to play three and a half years there, 4 seasons, and then got drafted to NYCFC, which was an amazing experience. Just living in New York, playing under Patrick Vieira, playing with Andrea Pirlo, David Villa, Maxi Morales, and like some of the relationships that I was able to mend at my time there was great. Obviously, I didn't get to play as much as I would have wanted to. It's a tough place to actually try to crack the first team. Like your competition, the guys I just named are your competition, right? So I had the opportunity to come back home and get games under my belt and be comfortable at the same time in surroundings that I'm familiar with. And I couldn't pass up that opportunity playing under Coach Bobby again. I knew exactly what he wanted from me, and I knew what I would get from him. And it's just been an amazing experience so far. 2 championships, 2 Team of the Years. I mean, what can go wrong, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, you're in your 3rd season now with Forge, and it's going very well. You're having another great year. But I think let's bring Jordan in here. You're in your first year with York. You played a lot of your career, I think 5 years or so in Denmark with Nykøbing, if I'm not mistaken. But maybe do you want to give us the same as Kwame did, a little bit of your background and how you came to the CPL, to York United?
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely similarities with our stories, but some differences as well. I think I'm a Mississauga native, so grassroots was with North Mississauga Soccer Club, and then when I started getting a bit more serious about the game, I switched over to Aaron Mills Soccer Club, and with Joseph Kamladi. A bit older than Kwame, so back then it was more club side, your best club against your best club. And then at that time, Aaron Mills, they're just big on sending guys over to the States on a scholarship and whatnot. So I actually went to an NAIA school, which is a whole, like, for people who don't know, it's a whole separate division from like D1 or D2. A school just in Michigan, like 5 hours away. They had really good coaches, an ex-MLS player. Steve Herdsman was the assistant coach, a great coach, and Mark Bell. That just a good program. And yeah, I was there for actually 4 years, 5 seasons, because I redshirted 1 year. But it was just always my dream to like go overseas and play in Europe. So once I graduated, I took a chance and just kind of tried my luck. I have some family in England and whatnot, and just got situated, and then ended up just getting like funneling out to Denmark. And I've stayed with the same team for 6 seasons, actually 6 years. So I ended up making Denmark my home. Played with the same club in the first division for 5.5 years, maybe like 150 caps for them. And it just came a point in my life where I wanted to come home. I want to continue playing. This league has always intrigued me because, quite frankly, it should have been in place 10, 15 years ago, the amount of talent that we have in the GTA, but just in Canada alone, we needed a place for like young kids to come and develop, but also players like myself who want to build up the game of football or soccer in Canada. We need our own league. Like every other country has one. We have a lot of talent, but we just didn't have our own league. So it made sense for me to come home and just kind of want to give my last years of the game to the country that kind of made me, the place that made me. So it's perfect that I'm at York. I'm like 40 minutes away from home, a little drive. And I get to play in the country I love. So it's perfect.
Absolutely. So let's get right into it. We're having this conversation about, the professional game in Canada and where it's at. But you guys have obviously seen the game in a lot of other places outside of Canada. I mean, Kwame, you spent a lot of time in the US, both in college and in MLS. Just maybe let's start there with how you think it compares down there with our neighbors to the south, and where maybe we stack up here in Canada, and how what we need to do to maybe, if we are a little bit behind, to get back up there.
I think from the players that I've played with growing up, like age group, like let's say the 90s age group, I guess, like because there's a lot of talented players from this whole generation. Like as people say, this is Canadian soccer's golden generation. But I mean, I think football wise, I think we're more intelligent. Like going into college, there's a lot of athletes, not really soccer players. So then we were able to make our way around the college game because we were also athletic, but we understood the game a lot better. So if you see guys like Kyle Laring going number one, or Richie, and then me, and then Tajon, like you understand. I mean, obviously a lot of us came through the whole system, but look at Kyle Becker. Kyle Becker's not the most athletic player, but because he was so much smarter than everyone in college soccer, it worked. Like, you know what I mean? So I think in that system, going from youth soccer, academy soccer, obviously being blessed to train under the likes of Bobby and stuff like that, but we were able to use our soccer IQ a lot better than a lot of the Americans, so we stood out a lot more. Whereas they were athletes turned into soccer players rather than soccer players then approach the game on the athletic side. So
Right.
That's the difference. You can even tell with the national team now, like we have a lot of smarter soccer players, but they just have a bigger pool of players to choose from. I think that's the only downfall. America has 350 million people. We have 35. So you have 10 times more. You have a better chance of catching better players, right? So
Yeah, and I think we're certainly hoping that intelligence comes through next week when Canada heads down to Nashville for that World Cup qualifying game. It's an interesting point though, because I think even in the CPL we see that the tactics are quite detailed and complex, and maybe that's something that we didn't necessarily expect would happen so quickly. But Jordan, you played for a while in Europe and in a country where maybe the game's a little bit more established, I think is probably fair to say. What's maybe different about it over there, and how maybe much of a transition is it for you to come back to play in Canada after that?
I think probably the biggest thing I've noticed in the transition is just in Denmark, everything was basically about tactics. Like you knew what you were going up against week in and week out in terms of how teams like to play. Like I would always tease my manager, people I was talking about, like they would die with their system in terms of maybe it's not working, but it's so ingrained in them. Like that's the way they want to play. Like their winger's going to do this, their 10's going to do that. They died with it. Like, and in a way, I always felt like there was no. Of course, there's some creativity that just happens with the game, but in terms of everyone was regimented. Like every player did their job. If you didn't do your job, you're on the bench. I feel like transitioning and coming back home, I'm happy because there's a bit of rawness to like the game. Like in terms of there's tactics and there's a game plan that people wanna abide by, or teams a philosophy they wanna play, a standard they want to play too. But I also think there's just like raw talent in terms of guys that just have individual abilities and they want to show that week in and week out. So I would say, it's a nice transition because I didn't really expect that. I didn't really expect that every team are gonna have a few players that could just turn up on a day and just show a little pizzazz. So I kind of like that the Canadian League, the CPL is going in that direction. Like every team has a handful of players that could burn you, or like if they want to turn up on the day, they can, outside of the tactical part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we definitely have seen a few players who, played a while in Europe or whatever, and have come back at this later stage in their career. David Edgar, Nick Ledgerwood, all these guys that have, come back to, raise the level of this league. We're starting to get a few questions coming in from the audience, so I encourage everybody watching to send those in, and we'll try to get to as many of them as we can. Maybe quickly we'll go with this one, which is a little bit on a similar topic. But Jeffrey asks, what's been the best surprise about playing in the CPL? And I don't know if either of you wants to take that one first. Maybe Kwame, because Jordan just spoke a whole bunch.
I won't even lie. Going into the CPL, coming from NYCFC, I kind of underestimated what it would be like. I underestimated the competition because for me, I always only focused on the team I was going to be on. I never focused on any other teams or the players that other teams would have. Like I know players that are on other teams, of course, but I never really took into consideration the talent level because I was so used to playing with guys like Andrea Pirlo, this and that. So I was exposed to a higher talent level. But at the end of the day, it's still grown men trying to make a name for themselves. You're not just going to run around run all over them, right? So, I mean, I think the first half of the season, 2019, the first spring season or whatever, I kind of took it for granted, and then I realized, okay, this is a real thing. Like guys are really trying to make a name for themselves, make a name for the CPL. So, I mean, that was probably the biggest surprise, and then just seeing that there's a lot of talent that goes unlooked, right? Like there's a lot of guys that still to this day can't make CPL rosters, and you're still asking why. Right.
Yeah, and I think certainly the CPL tries to catch as many of those, guys that would have fallen through the cracks before anyway. But there's still probably work to be done. I mean, Kwame, you were in the league from the very beginning, but Jordan, you are just coming in this third year. So the same question to you. Maybe you have a different perspective on what surprised you or impressed you about playing in the CPL this year.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely steal Kwame's answer. I would say the talent, but I also would say what I was pleasantly surprised about was just the fan base. Obviously, it's a new league, but I kind of grew up I was born in 1991, and just hockey was a big thing. Then baseball, you always saw baseball fields. Of course, I love soccer, and it was a new growing sport, but in terms of fan base, it just wasn't there. So I'm pleasantly surprised, playing in stadiums where there's 3,000, 4,000, whatever it might be. Or we went to Halifax and played a 3-2 game, we won in the last dying minutes or whatever. But it was just a great vibe. It's just nice to see that a sport that we all love and that is growing in Canada, where the fan base is also growing. So I'd definitely say that because when I played certain matches in Europe, you could see everyone cared about that match. It was kind of time stood still in a way. It was all about that match. So it's nice having a similar feeling sometimes when we're back home. Even when we played Ford yesterday, it was a good turnout on a Saturday afternoon. And that just helps. Playing in front of fans and having a good community, interacting with them. It takes the game to a different level. Just playing and there's not anyone watching, it's fun. You're still going to do your job, but it's not as fun.
Yeah, definitely. And it's definitely nice to see now after, so long without fans anywhere, playing in bubbles. I know that you guys it was certainly challenging for you guys to be locked up in those bubbles twice, or Kwame twice, Jordan just the one time. But
once was enough, man. Once was enough.
Man.
Yeah, hopefully never again. Hopefully we're done with that sort of thing for now.
Then traveling all through Central America last year.
Yeah. Forge was playing that CONCACAF League run. You guys were in El Salvador for like 2 weeks, and then you're in Panama and I think Honduras, and there's somewhere else.
Panama, Dominican,
or Haiti. You played a Haitian team, or you played them in the
Dominican. Yeah,
Haitian team in the Dominican. Right. All right, Kwame, we're going to come back to you, though. I think you've mentioned it a couple times here, this time at New York City FC, and I think people really want to hear about that because, you know, you've dropped the names already, David Villa, Andrea Pirlo, Patrick Vieira. Just tell us a bit about what it is like to, you know, play with those guys and under that coach, and maybe just what you maybe learned from that sort of thing, because I'm sure you must learn a lot from that.
Yeah, I mean, the first time, I think it was at the Combine, the MLS Combine, I saw Patrick Vieira at the hotel bar or whatever, like getting coffee. He was with Raul, the Real Madrid Raul. And I was like, hold on, what's going on right now? Like, in my head, I was like, yo, I probably will never see this guy again. So, like, why not get a picture? So me and Chris Nanko get a picture of Patrick Vieira. Like, just like randomly, like, okay, can we have a picture? Because I never know when, like, you know what I mean? Just basically being fans. Next thing you know, I go to my agent. I'm like, yo, if you can get me to New York City FC, yo, I'm happy. The next, we had like another 2 games left in the Combine. I did really well. And then my agent comes to me. He's like, yeah, like you have a meeting with NYCFC. And I was like, wait, really? And then they were like, yeah, but they don't have their own room. So I had to go to the meeting in Patrick Vieira's hotel room with the rest of the coaches. And I was like, damn, that was pressure. I was like, I cannot say the wrong thing. And if I really want to go, because they weren't really planning to draft anyone. They kind of did everything like on the low. They're just there to like watch, see what like just in case, you know what I mean? But yeah, I ended up getting drafted by them. It was a dream come true just to be able to kickstart my professional career. But one thing that people don't understand, like you might get drafted, but you don't earn a contract right away.
Yeah.
So it's still like you still have to go to preseason and prove yourself. So going to a preseason with a team like NYCFC where everyone is really good, it's a lot tougher than going to a team where like you know what I mean, you can have like a couple of sessions off and still get signed. So going there, everything was tactics. Like you can tell it was a European brand of football. You could tell he came from like City. You could tell he's possession based. There's a lot of tactics he had to know. So I feel like he gave me the ability to understand the game a lot better, like where the ball should be played, where your options are, every little minor detail. Like he allowed me to, like he helped me learn all that stuff. And then just playing with Pirlo and David Villa, you could tell those guys played at the highest level. When the ball touches their foot, like when they strike the ball, the way they carry themselves, obviously their personalities are different. Pirlo is more reserved, more relaxed, and David's more how could I say, he's more egotistical. I guess like he has a bigger ego. He was the captain. He was a goal scorer. The year before, he was MLS MVP. So it was like, okay, I understand. Like he was one of those guys. But playing with them, and then guys like Maxi Morales as well, who's probably the best small-sided player I've ever played with in my life. He's also 5'3", so it's like you can't really get him or the ball. So I mean, it was an amazing experience. Like I do not regret anything about it. Like, yeah, I'm upset like I didn't play as much as I could have, but like I learned so much from those guys and everyone else on the team, and from Patrick himself. Like it was a tough situation that he was put in and I was put in, but other than that, those guys are great people. Still talk to this day.
Yeah, you do? Are you still in contact with David Villa?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I can't imagine, the pressure of sharing a pitch with those guys. I'm sure it's a high standard that they expect probably from their teammates.
Yeah, 100%. I think Pirlo was more reserved. Obviously, he was coming into the last year of his career. So, but like for him, he was just like, yo, just give me the ball. Don't worry. Like, I was like, all right. Like, you win the ball, you give him the ball. It's like, yo, all right, here, you got it. And then it was just magic, literally. Like free kicks, all that stuff that you seen these guys do, like they were still doing it at a high level, just slower. Like they were just not running as much. Yeah.
Yeah, they've done their running.
Yeah.
I think they'd probably earned that. Jordan, I'll ask you this because I think Kwame's answer just there is probably pretty self-explanatory, but maybe who's the best player that you've ever played with or against in your time as a player?
Oof. Yeah, you guys are probably gonna have to look him up, but a guy named Rasmus Falk. He plays for Copenhagen now, but he was like I played against him for 90 minutes at a time where he was playing for a Danish club called who was he playing for at the time? Well, sorry, he signed for the biggest club, so Copenhagen. Mm-hmm. But I played against him. I forget what team he was at the time before he went there. But I couldn't touch the ball, man. For 90 minutes, I was just chasing shadows. And, like, I'm a more of an aggressive player, so, like, I get into the game if I can make a tackle or win a header or there's a loose ball and I can drive forward, whatever. But there was none of that for 90 minutes. He was just, he was unreal, and then ended up winning the Danish championship, like, I think 2 years ago with Copenhagen. But, yeah, he was just an unreal player.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure we will have to look him up, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, what is the Danish league like though? Because I think it's not necessarily a league that a lot of people have their eyes on all the time. But you know, it's a very good footballing country, right?
For sure, I think a lot of foreigners pass through Denmark, just because it's such a small country as well. Like there's only 6 million people. Like there's more people in Toronto than there are in Denmark. But just how serious they are about their football. Like you basically grow up playing football or handball, and like, but football's still like the bread and butter. It's a sport that everyone loves to play and loves to watch. But yeah, I think the only thing I could say is that it's just so professional. Like everyone cares about it. There was a match on Sunday, and I saw people on Saturday. That's all they talked about. And like as a team, we always joke that we had the power of like making a husband or a wife's weekend. Like if we won, like they were eating well, and he was nice to her. If we lost, like he was grumpy, and like it's literally the truth. Like being in the city that I was in as well, it was like an hour outside of Copenhagen, so it was a smaller city, but the vibe in the air when we won was different. Like when we lost, it was just everything was down, and I would say that's the biggest difference in Denmark as opposed to like being back home, because there's other things going on. Like we played Forge yesterday, but TFC is also playing. The Jays are playing. Like Raptors are gonna start playing. Like there's just so many other things happening. But over there, it's really just that. Like football is its own religion for sure.
Yeah, and there's certainly just a lot going on here, and I think football kind of has to fight for that attention, right? We're still getting a few more of these audience questions coming in, and I think we'll try and rattle through a few of them now before we maybe get back to the serious business of player development and the state of the game. But just to start with a couple of these, Ty asks, when you're playing against your friends or somebody that you know, do you apologize to the guy if you get stuck in a tackle or you foul him or something like that?
That's a great question. Kwame, you want that?
I feel like it depends on how heated the game is, but like you always, maybe I'll tackle and then like a couple seconds or a minute later, I'll be like, yo, you're good, and then keep it moving. You know what I mean? It's never for me, never any malice. But I know I have some friends that tackle me and just keep it pushing. It's like, all right, like I know that it's not like, I know when the game's over, we're still gonna be friends. It's just in the heat of the game. But for me, like when I tackle guys, like me and Petras have known each other since we were like 12, played on Woodbridge together. Like I tackle him. If the ref calls a foul, I'll be like, ref, what the hell? Cussing out the ref. And then after, like, he'll walk past, and I'll be like, are you good? And and then just keep it pushing.
Jordan?
I agree that I don't want to hurt anyone, friend or not. Like, I think when I was younger, I was a bit of a loose cannon. But, like, growing up, it's just, like, as you mature, like, I don't want to hurt anyone. That's not my intention. But I also want to win. So, like, I could care less if, like, we're friends if you're my boy. Like if you used to sleep at my crib Like we used to go to barbecues together. Like when we play, if you're on the opposite team, you are not my friend. Until the whistle blows, like ask Kwame yesterday. I was upset. They won, but they were the better side. I'll show love, say, yo, congrats. But the next time we play, same thing again. Like I want to run through someone and I want to win. But after the game, like we can break bread. So I think now too, there's a lot of guys that before the game they want to like kiki and laugh and whatnot. But like for me, I just can't do it. Like I can have a conversation, but for me to do my best job for my team, I got to be like focused and almost think like if this guy was about to run in and score, would you put your whole body on the line to stop him? And like to be all friendly with someone before a game or during the game, but still have that mentality is hard for me personally. So I kind of just like stay in the zone, and then after we can be boys.
Yeah, I'm certainly glad that you guys played against each other yesterday and not like tomorrow or something.
Well, we play them like 4 more times. So
yeah. You do at least.
Yeah, wow.
It's a long season. We've got another one from a question I can't remember who asked it, but if you were to play professionally in another sport, or if you could be an athlete in another sport, which one would you choose? Kwame, go first.
Honestly, I'm not tall enough to do a lot of other sports, so I think like soccer would be the only one. Maybe, yeah, even maybe track and fields. Maybe that's it. If like other than that, yeah, I'm not tall enough to play soccer, basketball, hockey. Yeah, not really any other sports. Like, my genetics just don't help.
Did you do any other sports in like high school or anything?
Yeah. Like so, growing up, I used to be big into track and field and basketball. I actually had to choose between basketball and soccer because I was going to the provincial team. This was like when I was 13. But then I knew I'm not growing that much taller, so it's like, why am I gonna play basketball? So I chose soccer, obviously, and it ended up working out.
Yeah, I think it's gone pretty well, to be honest. Jordan, do you have any secret talents in another sport?
I'm honestly very good at volleyball, and everyone laughs, but like I'm like, could I have gone far with it? Probably not, because I'm 5'10". But I always say that I'm such a team guy, and like always want a team to do well. But I wonder how good I would be if I ever did an individual sport, like tennis or golf, or like a sport that you're literally just relying on yourself. So if I didn't play footy, I definitely would try tennis. I know like the hours to train, and it's just like it's unreal, but it would be nice to not depend on anyone else and just like it's all in my hands.
Yeah, it sounds pretty good. Maybe just one more of these. Obviously, you guys are professional footballers. I don't know how much time you have to watch the game in terms of other leagues or teams or things, but do you guys have teams or players that you'll go out of your way to watch still whenever they're on TV, or teams that maybe you think you can learn from and bring things into your own game? I don't know who has a good answer to go first. What are you thinking?
Growing up, I mean, I've always been a Barcelona fan. So like the times where like Ronaldinho was there, I think that's what made me start watching. But my favorite player is Messi. So any opportunity I get to watch Messi, I'm always gonna watch. Like my older sister used to make a joke. I used to watch every single Messi highlight on YouTube possible growing up. Those are the days when I used to play winger and midfielder. So I was like, yo, maybe I can emulate my game off of his. Obviously, it's Messi, but yeah, I mean, Barcelona, I think actually some people watch soccer for entertainment, but most of the time I watch soccer to actually learn and like, understand other teams' tactics, or like what I can use to implement in my game, or how they like. I'll watch like, let's say Marcelo, see how he moves off the ball, like if he's in possession or if he's out of possession, or David Alaba, guys in my position, and then I look at guys that play ahead of me. So like I look at the left winger. So if the left winger moves, what does my guy do? Like where's the movement off the ball? Where is the attacking midfielder supposed to be when I have the ball? Stuff like that. So I think once you start playing professionally, you start getting to a higher level. Soccer is entertaining 100%. But most of the time you watch and you're learning as well. But I won't even lie, sometimes I don't even watch. I'm like, I don't even want to watch soccer because we play so much and we train so often. It's like, I want to do something else other than soccer. I want nothing to do with soccer when I come back from practice.
Yeah, I asked the same thing to Bobby and Jimmy. Just now on our last panel, and they said we don't have time to watch other teams. We got to watch our own team and watch film, get ready for the next game. But Jordan, do you have any teams or players that you really like to watch? I mean, some guys will say they model their game after a player, and sometimes that's kind of hard to say when it's Leo Messi or something like that.
Yeah.
But are there other players that you think of?
Well, it's funny that Kwame was telling me that he played under Patrick Vieira, because that was literally my childhood hero growing up. So I think back in the day, like watching someone who played like D mid, it could do both. And so what I mean by that is just like break up play, but also play forward. I think it's just like that type of player. So you can say even today that's Kante. So I like watching him. But to be honest, I'm more just taking in Messi and Ronaldo just because they're both getting old. And like when my kids one day ask me about how they were, I want to say that I watched and like I admired like as much as possible. But to echo Kwame's sentiment as well, like when I have time, it's just really me with my family or my girl. Like I'm kicking it. I'm not really, I'm not running to watch Champions League, because when I am at training or when I am talking with Jim or the gaffer about tactics or whatever, I'm all in. So it's nice to get like a little break and just, talk about something totally different or watch reality TV with the wifey or whatever it might be. Like just literally take a break. So I think you need a bit of balance. Like I'm not all in. I don't have to see every time Cristiano Ronaldo plays or every Chelsea match and watch Conte. It's just like if it's on, it's nice to watch. But yeah, I think that answers the question.
100%.
100%. Yeah, you don't want to overload too much, right? Like, if football is your life, then you can't really spend all of your free time watching it as well.
Especially when we're playing 3 games in 7 days. It's
it's too much.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a long season. I'm sure you guys are exhausted, but I think we've got about just under 15 minutes here. So let's maybe get back on the topic that we're supposed to be on here with player development in Canada and the professional game. I know there's probably a lot of people that are watching today, listening today, that have aspirations of playing football, probably younger kids and even coaches. What would you guys like say to those kinds of people, the younger players? I don't know if you have advice or things that you learned along the way that maybe you'd want to pass on to them. If Kwame, do you want to go first?
For me, I think the most important thing was just having fun. Like I look back at the times I used to play in the Spanish league, club soccer, and I'm like, those are really genuinely the happiest times of my life. Like win or lose, like you always knew like I'm playing with my best friends, I'm getting better, I'm enjoying it. Like you knew that like when it came to the game time, everything you did in training was going to be implemented into the game, and like you were working hard, you're running around. Those are the times where you're playing all day tournaments, 3 games in one day. I could not even we talk about it all the time. Like I can't even imagine trying to do that today. Like 3 games in one day, play at 8:00 in the morning. You never take off your shin guards like all day, like everything just sweating, dirty. And it's like, yo, those are probably the happiest times. You just remember the smiles, the laughter. Like you go into the Robbie tournament, the away tournaments, traveling the hotel. I think just enjoying all those moments is really special. And like the guys that I enjoyed it with are guys that I'm still playing with till this day. So I think that's a good thing. And another thing is like don't be afraid to bet on yourself. My whole life, I've never been on a team where I was the best player on the team. Coming from club soccer to academy to college to obviously to professional. So it's like I've never been a player so I always wanted to go to the best team to try to be one of the best on the best team. So I never really understood when people talk about like say how like Messi, the super team, right? Like why wouldn't or Mbappe leaving PSG is like why wouldn't you try to be the best on the best team? That really means you're the best, right? So I think just challenging yourself, never be afraid to bet on yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know, Jordan, I'm sure you feel the same way, but I don't know what advice you might have.
No, great advice. And again, to echo Kwame's sentiment, I grew up in 91. The class was ridiculous in terms of talent and players coming out. So for me, I actually relished the fact that I wasn't like the cat's meow, like I wasn't the big dog. I was playing with big dogs, but I wasn't like the player. Like I was good. I had my moments where like people kind of respected my game, especially growing up. But I wasn't the big player. So even now, when I talk to anyone who's younger, I say that's a blessing in disguise. Like to always be chasing, always work, and aspire to be one of the better players or one of the best players is amazing. So I think to younger players, I would just say like, don't compare yourself to others because everyone's on a journey. Like I remember being 14 and not getting caught up with the guys who were best at 14 because I was like, I just want to be the best for myself. I want to work on my long balls or like my left foot or whatever it was personally that I had to work on to make myself better. I like took it upon myself to make that thing better. And then eventually, it wasn't all at once, but maybe 18, 19, 20, like I started to like surpass people. But if you're always measuring up against someone, you're always gonna be chasing it. So I found it really, really rewarding that I had people around me as well that were just like, yeah, just keep developing, like keep enjoying the game, keep putting in the work. Because bit by bit, eventually it ended up paying off for me. But if I peaked at 15, like I wouldn't be here today talking to you. It was those good habits that actually propelled me forward. And even now, like I look at a game yesterday and I'm like, okay, well, I got to do this and this better because that's just been instilled in me for the past 20 years of playing the game, 25 years. I'm always trying to develop. I'm always trying to get better, for sure.
Yeah.
And I always say, like, comparison is the thief of joy, man. It really is. You compare yourself, you're like, damn, this guy's doing this. Like, how come I'm not doing it? Then you forget everything that you actually are doing well.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And just maybe on the same topic here, you know, speaking of yourselves as youth players, if you could go back now and maybe talk to yourself at that young age, maybe as a teenager, what do you think you would say? Do you maybe tell him to do something differently or something like that? Is there anything that you wish you'd known at that point in your career?
I would have told myself to not be so hard-headed. I always have a chip on my shoulder, but that chip when I was younger was massive. I used to walk around like, you know what, like I'm gonna grind. I don't care what anybody says. Like I used to butt heads with some of my coaches. Like I used to be like, nah, you know what I mean? I wasn't really. I was confident but borderline arrogant. So like I didn't really take criticism or assistance well. And I think that's one thing I would have told you is like, yeah, not everyone is telling you things that are gonna necessarily help you, but you have to have an open mind and like let things travel one ear through the other. If you don't want to listen, you don't listen. But just your reaction to my reaction to criticism and my attitude at sometimes wasn't the best. But I think that's because of like where I grew up and how hard I had to grind just to even play soccer in general. So
yeah, for sure. Jordan,
Kwame, you're killing these answers, bro.
It's true. Yeah, we had chips on our shoulder, man. It's like, yo, I was like, I'm not gonna be left behind, basically.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Jordan, would you say the same or something else to your, let's say,
I would say something similar to that, but also just like for me or even any young player, I would say like stay curious.
Mm-hmm.
Like my dad never had to tell me to go train. I was just always on like anything footy. I was on it. Like I wanted to see my brother play. I wanted to see a game from a year older than me. I wanted to see the girls play. Like I was just curious about the game. So I would say like you can always tell someone what they're interested in by like what they put their time into. So if you're a young kid and you say you want to be a professional, but like you train once like 30 minutes for the day and you're not really happy, it's just like there's no shame in that, but you kind of have to ask like, is that something that actually brings you joy? Because it's not really work. Like for me, growing up every day and like going to training, like I don't feel like I work. Like it's a joy. So I would just tell someone like stay curious, like stay like if there's something that you really enjoy within the game, like find like different ways around it as well. Like go deeper into it, like tactics, whatever it could be. Just stay curious. For sure.
We've got about 5 minutes left here, and I've got Another serious, probably boring question, but before that, we've got one from the audience from Elham Youssef. Very quickly, he asks, Messi or Ronaldo? You got 2
For
seconds.
me, Messi.
Messi?
Yeah.
Jordan?
For being a devil's advocate, I'm definitely gonna say Ronaldo.
All
But
right.
I would say, why are you asking us to choose this? We just need to appreciate both of them, man.
We did just
Everyone always does.
say.
Just love both of them.
It's true. Like I hate, for me, like obviously it's a preference, but like for me it's like when someone says, "Oh, Messi's the best ever," it's like people are downplaying. It's not, we're not downplaying Ronaldo. We're not downplaying or saying Ronaldo's best ever. It's like there's nothing wrong with being the second best soccer player ever in history. Like, you know how crazy that sounds for you to be like, yo, how's he second best? I'm like, dog, ever. Like, yo, you know how many soccer players that are playing right now, back in the day, like, we're talking about millions of, like, yo, that's crazy. That's crazy for people to even, like, no, we're not downplaying anyone's greatness just by saying I prefer one better than the other. Like I said, like, if I prefer Messi and I think he's the best ever, Ronaldo's going to be second, 100%. Like, I'm not an idiot at the end of the day. The one time that I realized, I asked Patrick and Pirlo the same question, and they were like, yo, because Pirlo played Messi in the Champions League final, I think 2015, Juve versus Barcelona, and he was like, yo, yeah, that guy is different. He's like, I said, that's why I was like, okay, if these guys are saying it, because Pirlo's like top 10 midfielders ever, I was like, and this is a different story then.
That's a really interesting story. I didn't.
Yeah,
it's fascinating to hear what those guys, even at the top levels of the game, think about this. And Kwame, I think you said like 10 minutes ago, comparison's a thief of joy, right? We can
100%. Just enjoy them.
Yeah, exactly. We've got about 3 minutes left here, so just to get back to that topic, I mean, you guys are in the CPL now. You've obviously come up through the youth ranks in Canada and so on and so forth. But obviously the game is in a very different place now in this country than it was 10 years ago or even before then. Just how much have you guys maybe seen things changing in this country, and what do you think needs to happen next to maybe take us up another level?
Jordan, you can go first.
Love that.
You've been around longer, bro. You've been around longer.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think there's a lot of players. I think the system that's in place right now in the CPL is great. I think it's a long time coming. I think we've always funneled and had so many creative, talented players, and it's just been a bit disservice that if you didn't go to a good school and then didn't go to the draft and then possibly played MLS, like you have to go abroad. Like, I think it's perfect now that you have players that could aspire to play in a league that is homegrown, and you can still be at home. You don't have to learn another language. You don't have to be on a different time zone. It's perfect. I think what we need probably moving forward, I hope I don't get shot by any of the CPL people in place, but is making the league just more professional. And yeah, that could be dollars and cents, but it's just all the other things that go into it. If you really want players from the CPL that are maybe younger going off and you're selling them and this and that, the league needs to be, I'll use the word unionized, but I know they're gonna be on me for this. But the truth is that we have great players and we have a good system, but we have to promote it. Like anything, you have to back it up. You can't have something good and then treat it like it's mediocre. So you can see that the CPL is entertaining, far more entertaining than I thought it would be. And it's still growing. So in order for 5 years, 10 years from now, for it to be a big league, we got to just put money into it, time into it, resources into it.
Absolutely. Kwame, maybe your closing thoughts here on just the health of the game in this country and where we do need to go next.
I mean, you could see it. And he said it perfectly. People had to go away just to get opportunity to play professional soccer, right? So I think just get more promoted, getting more games on TV, treating it more like, if you want it to be a big league, then you got to treat it like a big league, like you said. So I think that's important. Like, the product is there. You can see, like, for my team especially, like going into CONCACAF, beating teams like Taro, beating teams, you know what I mean? It's like, there's definitely something here. So if we're doing that, then I think we should be able to promote the game a lot more in Canada. And there's players here that are more than capable of playing at the highest levels.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, we've run right up against the end of our time here. So I just want to thank both of you for being so open and chatting so openly about all this stuff. And I think this has been a lot of fun.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thanks, Kwame and Jordan. And I want to thank everybody in the audience as well for coming out and watching us at the Allstate Soccer Show here all day. And yeah, I hope everybody has a great rest of their Sunday.